confused. I live in a constant state of confusion. No one's to blame but myself.
I love this. Is this a rap or?
Yeah, that's about as good as my rapping gets.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Used to take totes from the marijuana smoke, put you in a choke, gun smoke, gun smoke.
I love it. He was a great rapper.
Very good rapper.
Yes.
Great rhymes.
Yes. So we're going to talk about the law of free will, the law of confusion.
Yeah.
And Biggie Small.
Another part of our creational series.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's get right into what you wrote as we continue on. The law of free will, the law of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Your free will absolutely includes your free decision.
Yes.
And determination, possibility, which is built upon the responsibility of the laws with regard to fairness.
Mm-hmm.
So your free will absolutely includes your free decision.
Okay. Decision.
Yes.
Let's think about that word. So you have precision, right? Which is a single absolute point you're going to hit every time. It's perfectly precise. Okay. Accurate. It's like, around the general area. But decision, that is a separation of points. There's a choice that has to be made. Left or right.
Right. Yeah. It seems like it needs to be more than that, but it's that simple.
It's literally that easy. And we need to look at that because if the fundamental, which is the core base, it's the root, okay? It's the chief cornerstone, all right? It's the base of the pyramid.
Right.
There is a decision about where to put that stone because where that stone is put lays out the rest of the foundation and where the pinnacle is going to be, right? So when we are observing the law of free will, something that happens in nature, we need to observe how we decide to make decisions, to consciously think of decisions.
So here's what I'm thinking about. So when you said we need to decide.
Yes.
And then I look at people trying to make decisions nowadays.
Do people try and make decisions or do they let people make decisions for them?
Yeah, we can go there. And that's what you talked about in it. You said upon the responsibility of the laws with regard to fairness. So the responsibility, because I love that word responsibility because it plays, that's a big word for this law of free will.
Right. Well, responsibility it's two parts. It's responsibility to creation itself,
right?
Where we need to be responsible to its laws because we're bound by them. We can't escape them. Otherwise we wouldn't exist.
Right.
And then we also have the responsibility of ourselves and to ourselves to make decisions that play upon those laws.
Right.
And also respect those laws. We're betrothed. Is that the word? We're betrothed. I'm going to use it. Betrothed. I don't even know what it means.
You may just created a new word.
I like the word.
I don't know what the hell
I had the free will to make that word. I made a decision.
Yes.
That's my decision. And the word's betrothed. I don't even know what betrothed means.
We need a Jamie.
Yeah. Somebody sit here with a laptop and figure that out for us.
Pop it up on the screen.
Yeah, please. I would love the help. But if we're focusing on that, okay, if creation gives us the free will to make a decision, the question is, are we going to make decisions that align with the thing that allows us to exist?
Right.
Or make decisions that pull us away from it? Make decisions that de-unify us. Make decisions that separate us from the one thing that gives us the ability to be here.
And I love that you mentioned the word laws because I want to give a quote from, and I know on Netflix there's a documentary on him and he's kind of controversial, but Osho. You've heard of him, right? And his teachings and stuff.
So is that like if I'm in the workplace and I trip?
No, not Osho. OSHO. He says this, it is easier to create the effect because the effect depends totally upon you.
Yeah.
The cause may not be so dependent on you.
Yeah.
So we're creating, the effect is totally dependent on us. And that word responsibility, that's why I want to get in responsibility because it is 100%. You choose to create a new word. It was 100% your decision. And I had no influence or anyone else had no influence in you making that decision.
No.
So, and that's what we were talking about. Why do we allow people to bring influence upon us?
Because we lack
to make a decision.
Because we lack the responsibility to understand ourselves at a deep enough level to realize that we don't need other people to make decisions for us.
Yes.
We know ourselves well enough. We are so in tune with creational laws and control of our own life,
right,
that we don't need someone else to come in and control it, take away that power that we actually have, and our own evolutionary power.
And the law of cause and effect, as we're seeing, all these laws kind of blend in
They
together.
they have to.
And the law of free will, it works in conjunction, which is for every action, there's a corresponding reaction. But I love this. On the spiritual level, this law is reversed.
Yep.
With free will, the effect becomes the cause.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So because it also has to balance itself out.
Yes, yeah.
It also, so cause and effect also becomes effect to the cause.
Right.
There has to be that inverse, right? Remember that law of equality? I don't know if we've gotten into it yet. We probably haven't done the episode, but it's required to have that balance.
Right.
So you'll always see that inverse, right?
Right.
It's that other polarity of energy.
Right.
And the interesting part about free will, and free will has another name, right? It's also the law of confusion.
Yeah, which when you look at the law of confusion,
that
always has like, I know that always has like a negative, that always has a negative connotation. And I want to get into that, but I want to kind of get into, we're going to get into the law of confusion, but I want to get into this, and there's a big word called serendipity.
That's very serendipitous.
I know, it's serendipitous.
It's so serendipitous that would happen.
But whenever you look at you having 100% responsibility, whenever you look at a circumstance or an encounter
yes,
that you have, it is matching your state of being.
that is precisely correct. It's not some sort of cosmic event. It's not a miracle.
Right.
Miracles don't exist.
Right.
People want to think miracles exist. They don't. If a miracle existed, then it would defy all the creational laws. It would sit outside of the law form and then cause our universe to actually, implode within itself.
Right.
It could not exist if something sat outside of the laws that allow it to exist.
Right.
It wouldn't. It's a logical fallacy at that point. So if you're talking about that serendipitous moment,
right,
something that occurs, that's you living in that free will, that choice
right,
that has driven probabilities, causes and effects and causes,
right,
the
yes,
inverse of those things, to culminate to a point where you weren't paying attention. And you're like, wow, this is miraculous that this is happening right. Well, no, it's not. If you go back to everything you've been doing, where you've put yourself to in this moment, you would realize that it's not so miraculous.
Yes.
You drove the odds with
You're
your
right,
free will to this point, to this thing that was seemingly improbable, only becomes probable because you took your free will, your decision, your split choice, taking a path to continue to lead yourself split to split to split to split, like a tree branch.
Yes.
A tree branch bifurcates all the time. The tree makes a choice. I need to bifurcate. In doing so, I get more leaves. I can pull in more sunlight, more photosynthesis, more health, more life. You constantly take these splits all the time.
And so when you change your state of being and you develop a higher consciousness,
yes,
then you begin to go down a different path.
You definitely begin to go down a different path.
And when you align your free will, and I don't want people to get confused, and we'll get into this later, but I don't want people to confuse will with free will, because we always take the word will, and will, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But when you align your free will with divine love, all of a sudden, it's not miracles.
No.
But see, this is where the word, and I'm glad you brought up miracles, but this is where people think when somebody is completely aligned with their free will and divine love, miracles begin to happen, they say. It's not a miracle. You're just aligning with creation.
It's nothing. It's frankly nothing miraculous.
You begin to operate in a metaphysical realm.
Yes, because you have perfectly aligned with the thing that allows for your existence.
Right.
You've made those decisions, and through your willpower,
Right.
so you're
Which is unlimited.
Which you have an unlimited willpower, which is driven by your free will. And free will is the choice to build up that willpower.
Yes.
The free will is the choice to align with creation. No one's telling you to do it because you are a conscious, walking, talking, breathing, feeling, spiritual being. You are part and parcel of creation.
Yes.
So all the aspects, all the beauty of creation are inside of you. We just make these decisions to disalign ourselves, disunify, separate ourselves from it. So when we align with it,
Right.
we act in love, and acting in love, which means understanding it for what it truly is, then you create a state of union, a state of hyper union.
And the opposite of that is aligning your free will with stubbornness.
Yeah. And stubbornness is stagnation.
Yes.
And if we go back to the other episode with law of
exactly.
motion, stagnation leads to death, decay, dying.
Yeah, it's mediocrity.
It's
which is what we see in the world today.
It's a lack of evolution we see today. And we become frustrated with this lack of evolution, and we place blame, and we pass off our free will like it's some sort of business card.
So if we're on a path and one is aligned with consciousness and its power is coming from love.
Pour water all over myself.
Oh, that's great.
Turkish coffee.
You just baptized.
Yeah, I just baptized myself on air.
So you have that path, and then you have the path of resistance, which is misalignment with consciousness.
Yes.
So these two paths, you as in your free will have a choice to walk down.
Correct.
And the cause and effect is going to be from you walking down one of those two paths.
Right. And choosing one path over the other can lead to a state of confusion.
Yes.
Or a state of non-confusion.
Right.
And the law of free will is that they also call it the law of confusion, right? Because you make those choices to confuse yourself.
Yes.
To stray away from something so simple. Simple.
It's a new word. Yeah.
Simple's my new word. No, but you stray away from something that is so inherently simple, so obvious.
Right. It's duality.
And that's the duality. But the other half of that duality that we're living in is that mediocre, pass the blame, I don't want to evolve, stagnation, death, dying, lack of mobility, lack of evolution, confused state.
So this confused state, and then we have, because I think most people make decisions off of whims or a gut feeling or whatever. Mm-hmm. Now we have a misalignment with consciousness, and we're looking at these whims and we're saying, well, I have a free will, so I can, you could take it. Philosophers have been arguing free will for how long, predestination, free will, in the religious sector. But when you really look at it and understanding that you're misaligned, now you can look at it and say, now you're looking at it.
Freaking idiots on the mic.
But you're looking at it and saying, you're basically asking the question, why not? Instead of asking the question, why?
Wow. Okay.
No, but think about this.
Okay, Nicholas Flamel. Chill, bro. Okay, Nostradamus. Chill.
But if you begin to say,
chill, bro.
No, but if you begin to say, let's say, why not? I'm going to go 150 miles an hour in my bright red Camaro. Oh, there's lights behind me and I'm getting pulled over. That was the cause and effect of that.
Yeah.
If I was said, why do I want to go 150 miles an hour?
Yeah.
Now I can have a conversation with myself that can align with that right path of consciousness. That's going to prevent me from having that bad effect.
Yeah. Why not? It's just, that's kind of a,
but that's how we make our decisions.
Yeah. Why not? I'll just do it. What's the old,
or, fuck it.
Fuck it. We'll do it live.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone's seen that video. Bon Jovi's going to play us out. Yes. Okay. What does that mean? I don't even know what that means. Play us out.
Yeah. And I think most of the whims or the will part is just based, especially in our level of comfort that we live right now in the world, at some level. I know that we have third world countries and stuff like that, but I would say 60% of the world probably has some level. They're, fairly high up on the Maslow hierarchy.
Okay.
Enough to have their needs met. And so now we're looking at our wants. And so we base this will, not free will, but we base this will and these whims off of boredom.
Yeah, we do, because we're completely materialistically driven. And your question of why is interesting. So when people said, "Oh, I went with my gut feel," well, the gut feel is that's an interesting aspect for making decisions. Mm-hmm. So you have you intuit something. Mm-hmm. You're intuiting the decision. So you're feeling into it from a different aspect outside of the logical, conscious thinking one. But that's an out of balance decision if you go and just do it on that whim.
Well, you can never trust your emotions, because emotions could be based off of lots of different things. You could be angry in the moment.
So that's why you actually have to feel into it.
Yes.
And then you have to think about what's going on. You have to think about the emotional interplay.
Like, why am I angry right now?
I have to think, because you're looking at me. You have to think about,
I didn't get any Turkish coffee.
I'll make you some. I got the cool little thing now. No, but it's that law of interaction within yourself.
Yes.
Using, that willpower in you after you've thought about what's going on here and your free will of making that choice, right? You're building up that will, and okay, the free will hits.
Yes.
I've analyzed both of these. I use the why, and now I'm taking a more aligned path with creation that is more beneficial to myself, more evolutionary.
Right.
And it's less damaging in the physical and the spiritual.
Well, it also, it lines up with your purpose. Yeah. And then that free will decision will align with that purpose that has been given to you exclusively, because we're all, we're all collective, but we're all individuals put on this earth for a certain purpose to accomplish to that next level that of higher consciousness. So when we look at that, the free will is going to go with the person, but it's always going to have reason and rationality with it.
Yes. And people are like, reason, rationale, that's so anti-spiritual development. No, it's not.
No.
That's the perfect balance.
Yes.
is looking at your emotions, feeling into them, and then rationalizing. It's pure logic.
Right.
When you talk about creation, creation is akin to this thing called logos with the
Right.
Greeks. And that is akin to pure logic. And if you have pure logic, that means your rationale is in perfect decision-making form, free will form, with all the creational laws. So that's when we say unification of yourself with the universe, becoming one with it,
Right.
aligning with it through meditation, whatever that might be, your decisions, or just living your waking daily life, is using your free will to align with those laws.
Yes, yes.
And that free will is a law because it's always there for you to do that. Creation allots you that choice.
Yeah, and I think when we go back to looking at this state of being, because I want us to understand when we're operating within these laws, we're in this state of being, whether you want to call it, we can use a simple word, supernatural, whatever. I mean, that's kind of a hokey word, but whatever. But when we're in this state of being, our free will becomes committed to furthering out that promise that was given to us that may not be in this meat suit, but may have been for us to further ourselves for generations. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay, so the spirit
Yes.
has free will.
Yes.
This is a tool to manifest functions of that free will, this body, this meat suit, right? This atma, this thing, this fleshy thing. And so the spirit wants to constantly evolve and develop. And our experiential factors in the material happen with this body as the spirit inhabits this material. It's in balance. When I say in balance, that's the physical and the non-physical.
Right.
And when you say it's supernatural, it's not. It's actually something that's purely natural.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
of course,
so natural. We call it supernatural because we lack understanding.
Yeah, like
for what it
metaphysics,
truly is.
those type of words.
It's not metaphysics, it's just physics.
Yeah.
You know?
But I mean, whenever we're in this state of being, the opposite of that, when we're walking down that other path, where we're in our ignorance and we're in the moment of, not looking at ourselves as eternal beings, we tend to take this path of destruction. So it's like, why not? I'm going 150 miles an hour. Oh, I just hit the barrier.
Yeah.
This concrete barrier. Now I'm being rushed to the hospital and I'm in and out of consciousness.
But Jason, that's one, physical example. What about people that drink heavily all the time?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Go to drugs.
Yes.
Choose bad relationships.
Yes.
Say stupid stuff in front of people when they shouldn't. You and I have made that mistake.
We've all made that mistake.
Yeah. No, and you and I immediately felt the repercussions of it. We were actually educated.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Certainly. Yeah. Here
So,
recently.
We had realized that when you and I have a conversation, us on air, it's not what you do when people are looking, it's what you do when they aren't looking.
Right.
And it was almost like some of the nonsensical joking manner also isn't a joke for other people.
Yes.
And we realized that this is another part where we were making a free will decision to not really respect the totality of everything that was going on.
Yeah, we were, just to give context, there was somebody else in the studio and we were bantering back and forth with dark humor.
Right.
Which humor's humor, whatever, but we did not take into consideration, especially myself. I think I was probably, 90% the perpetrator, was going on and on with dark humor and in turn not even realizing that other person would take it, and be super offended by it, rightfully so, because especially when you look at, and this is something I've been thinking about, when you look at intention and you look at someone's heart, that takes time to get to know a person.
Yeah, it does.
Like you've known me for 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
I think. So, and we've done all these podcasts together and we've had deep philosophical talks.
And I'm grateful for every moment.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you've probably got, within 2.5 years having these podcasts, you've probably got to know me deeper than probably just off of the podcast.
I've gotten to know you on a very deep level.
Yeah, on a very deep level. So you've gotten to the point where you know my heart.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, I think honestly, you could, give a statement of who I am.
But what we didn't realize is that energetically, our conversations,
yes,
we realize the effect of they really do reach beyond us quite quickly.
Yes.
And we have now found a path.
I was imposing on someone's free will.
You were imposing on someone's free will.
If you really think about it.
Right. And so we have now learned and made a decisive choice to absolutely eradicate any of that dark humor from our speech.
Right.
It will never be off camera. It will never be on camera.
Right.
Because, you have to be on all the time. And if we're people that, we need to hold ourselves responsibly with our free will to being teachers,
Right.
then we need to be that leading example.
Yeah. I think whenever you look at offending someone, and being offensive, you're imposing on their free will. Now, their decision to be offended, their perceptions are reality.
Yeah.
But for me I imposed on this person by assuming that they would know my heart without ever really having a deep conversation with them at all.
And so there was
I just met them for the first time.
So then truly you never had a loving interaction. You never took the step of
a
understanding.
meaningful conversation or anything. Yes, exactly.
So we screwed up on our own learning.
Right.
And this happens. We're not perfect. Like we've always said, we're learning on the show just as much as everyone else. And we're glad we've gone through this process. And we know now that through our free will, we need to make sure that we are making decisions that are also respectful of others' free will.
And I had mentioned before, when we're walking down that path of higher consciousness and we know that the highest vibration is love, and then we have to put out love.
Correct.
And that type of speech, even, we got the First Amendment, great. We can, we have that ability. I follow comics. I love comics and stuff like that. But you have to make sure it's in the right context, also in the right place. When people are coming to see a comedian, they know that there's a person on stage with a microphone and that's going to be comedy. And a lot of that comedy brings awareness to some of the things that we're being stupid on.
Correct.
But you have to have the stage set up, the microphone set up, and the context of them knowing that you're going to a comedy show. This person was not, they weren't going to a comedy show. They happened to show up, just in regular day-to-day conversation.
Correct.
So, there was no anticipation of that. I don't, maybe you could explain it a little bit better.
Our stage is set.
Right.
We have a stage of education. We don't need to use comedy as a medium.
Yes.
Dark or light comedy to explain a subject. We are very direct about it.
Right.
And by using an indirect means of, like dark humor and other nonsense, really, and from, frankly, an ignorant basis.
Yes.
Sometimes it does seem funny, but it's like, crap, we really got to stop doing that.
Right.
And that's an elevation of ourselves. And that's where our mistake happened. But now we've realized we need to continue to take that more aligning, unifying path.
Yeah, it should be, if I'm in that higher conscious state of being, then would those type of words come out of my mouth? And it's really interesting. There's because I read the Bible a lot. There's Paul wrote, he was an apostle. He and I'm going to paraphrase the verse, but he said, when you speak, they should be things of, he said, whatever you speak, it should be things of love, peace. He said we should seek to be peacemakers.
Yeah.
We should always look for unity. Mm-hmm. And when I began to look at love, peace, and unity, and then you begin to look at the words and the things that you're saying, even in a passive aggressive way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get away from, the situation where we were taught, especially myself mainly, and I want to kind of get back into this. But when you begin to think of that, it's like the things that I'm saying now to my husband, wife, partner, the things that I'm saying to this coworker, the things that I'm saying, the things I'm saying to this child that I'm molding, whatever it may be, am I exhibiting love? Am I exhibiting peace? Am I exhibiting unity?
I love that.
And if I can't say those three things are coming out of my mouth, then I'm held to a responsibility of free will to correct myself.
Correct.
And whether I apologized and had to show humility, which I'm a very prideful person.
Yeah.
Which I have to work on personally. But I knew it's more important that the person knows my heart more than they know my mistake.
And that's absolutely correct.
And the only way you can fix a mistake is to 110% come in love and come in forgiveness.
And
then how that's received, I can't go from there.
But that's not for you. That's for the other person's free will.
Right.
And so that, if we go back when your previous example, flying down the highway in the car,
right,
it's not also a material destruction we can create within ourselves with our free will, but we can also create a spiritual one.
Right.
We can become spiritually confused.
Right.
Right. When we give our free will away to certain religions, certain dogmas, things like that, it strips us away from that perfect nature that we were imbued with.
Yeah, and I think when you apologize to someone, because this is a very practical episode, but when you apologize to someone and you're coming with the right intentions, you're raising your vibration, and then that vibration permeates out there. And as far as, how, as far as how that is received, I can't dictate that, because then because there's a lot of people say, well, I apologize. Why can't you forgive me?
No, that's not what it is, because then that's not a true apology.
Right.
Because you have the anticipation of receiving something in return. It's not truthfully 100% giving.
Right.
If there's a real apology, it's true forgiveness of yourself for the mistake.
Right.
Okay. And also, it's really looking at the other person and says, I understand.
Yes.
I really do understand, and I apologize.
Right.
Whether you receive that in that manner.
But I know I was operating at a higher vibration when I apologize. So I know that vibration has its way of working into.
And it will do it. And it may not be instantaneous. Because
that's a law.
We talked about the law of cause and effect.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. You can put them all together.
Listen, they all have to interplay. If they didn't, then the laws, again, would fold in on themselves. The universe wouldn't exist. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Each law is also bound by all the other laws.
Right.
And vice versa, because they have to have inverse polarity. Okay. So if we're looking at our free will, we can confuse ourselves. We can be very damaging with what we say if it's not peace, love, and unity.
Yeah, and so I use the why not and the why.
Yeah.
With this. So why not say it? It's funny. But then say why am I saying it? Why am I saying it?
And then you've gone into a deeper part of yourself. That question you're asking was one of the very first days when I started meditation. Is I sat down, I said, why am I doing this?
Right.
And that's when I realized the meditation started. That is truly when my spiritual journey kicked off. It wasn't a function of why not anymore.
Right.
It wasn't some hedonistic, just like crazy, go do everything all the time, just say because I thought it was funny and I thought people would think it was funny.
Or all these tech people are doing, meditations. It's the cool thing. So, why not do it?
No, it's not a why not thing.
Right.
It's a function of the why.
Yes.
And and if you eradicate the WH, you're left with the Y, right? It brands. It goes up. It's growth. It's choice. But
get rid of the H.
But the Y, if we're just thinking about it from a visual aspect, you have a decisive point.
Right.
Okay? I can go left or I can go right.
Yes.
Where's your free will going to bring you on that Y?
Yes.
And that's only going to happen with the Y.
And so I want to get back into the word responsibility, and then we can move back into your other section on here, on what you wrote. It is my responsibility 100% for my happiness. And I want to get into that word because I don't think we talk a lot about it on a podcast. But when you look at free will and you look at happiness and what true happiness is, and happiness to me, when I began to, let me give you an example. Happiness was to me whenever I chose the right, this is where I know where I'm growing. So I had two options to pick in that scenario. I can be like, I wasn't wrong. I was doing dark humor. I was joking around. Mm-hmm. Fuck off.
Yeah.
I could say that. Or I could turn around and say, I want to think of this person above me in the sense that their perception of me is wrong and my heart is this way. Not that they're wrong.
No.
At all.
They weren't wrong to perceive.
They weren't wrong.
That's all they knew. That's all they knew.
And I don't want to make them a victim and me the perpetrator, because that's wrong too.
Correct.
Because those scenarios play. I looked at it solely with my free will and it being 100% my responsibility. So 100% my responsibility, and for my own happiness, was after I did that, I felt amazing because I knew not that I did what was so-called right.
No.
I knew that it was genuinely aligned with who I was, one, who I truly am, and two, the path that I'm taking.
You also unified with that person. You unified with me deeper.
Yes. Yeah, of course. Right. Yeah.
And this was an aspect of learning, and you.
But that creates genuine happiness. That's what I'm saying.
It was genuine happiness. This is lasting happiness.
Right.
I feel very good
right.
about what happened through that series of events.
Yeah, it could have gone either two paths. The path of stubbornness.
There are two paths you can go by, but in the long run, right?
Yes.
There's still time to change the road you're on.
Yes.
Led Zeppelin fucking got it. Why can't we figure it out, right?
100%. Yeah. So so when I began to think of happiness, so then I started putting into other parts of my life this week. So I said, I hate working out. I used to hate working out. Now it's become, I'm starting to get happiness in the process.
Yes.
Because I'm not looking at the outcome.
You were only focused on end goal.
Because I think a lot of people, they're not, this is where I want to get, and then we'll move on. Most people, and I'm going to say most for a reason, are not happy because they're always constantly looking at the effect.
That's so funny. Someone asked me, they're like, Alex, you work out a lot. You've been working out for years.
Right.
I'm skinny. I'm
Right.
definitely lean. And I've lifted more weight and pushed, more cardiovascular strain than probably 99% of the planet.
Right.
I can say that with utmost
But you have a
certainty.
different,
No, but here's the thing. And I became very exhausted in my own internal self.
Right.
Was saying like, why am I not putting on like massive amounts of muscle? Why is my end goal not where it's not there?
Right.
I'm not seeing it. And then I realized it wasn't, when they'd asked me, so they're like, what's going on with your working out? Like my aspect of working out changed. I became exhausted by it. It burdened me. It felt like a function of slave labor for me to go do it.
That's a good word.
I had lost the pleasure in the process.
Yes.
Okay. And then I re-articulated my mind and my perspective to where I'm not worried about the end goal in a month. I'm worried about the lifelong health of myself.
Right.
So I want to go through the joy of the process, not to beat myself up and try and get as big as possible, as quickly as possible, right? Or look amazing. I want to build, strength in my consciousness, my spirit, and my body over the longest period of time. Because I can build a better foundation of wisdom. It's not about, looking like a big swollen balloon for me.
Right.
It's about really, truly enjoying the process of what I'm doing. I had to really think about why I was doing it. Why is it I choose to work out? Is it just a function of working out? No, it's the release for myself.
Yeah, I mean, physically it does so many things, but for me, it's and I had that a Muay Thai fighter on my other podcast, ABQ Business Podcast. Shout out, but he said it was learning to live in his mind, and so, and I really love that quote, and I'm going to make the title. We're fixing to release that podcast, but all the struggles. You like that?
I love fixing. Yeah.
and no, but I love that. It's like learning to live in your mind. And so, it's one of those things when you have that pain and struggle, whether you're running or backpacking or hiking or whatever, and you have a choice to make in that pain. In that moment, your free will kicks in.
It does.
And there's a lot of discomfort going on. And I can have a whim and my will could turn around and want to quit. In the discomfort. And anytime there's discomfort and pain here in the United States, especially, that's where we run from. We have Social Security and we have retirement and we have all these things. We have weeks of vacation. And, and IRAs and mortgages and homes and fancy cars. All of these things, all of these possessions are to bring us comfort, which in turn is supposed to bring us happiness.
But it doesn't.
But it imposes, all of those things impose on your free will.
Retirement slows our material. It slows our learning.
Yes.
We've found so much comfort and stagnation through our free will and choice. We've lost the responsibility of ourselves for our own continuing learning, growth, and development.
Yeah, you're 100%
We've tried to eradicate. We try to eradicate all risk. We've tried to just minimize it down to zero, but without risk, there is no learning. Without that challenge, without that internal competition within ourselves to be a better person,
right?
To run that mile inside yourself faster than the time you did it last year. If that's no longer there, if it's just comfort, where I just want to sit in the bleachers now,
right?
And
what's the law of striving?
Yeah, well, I know. Yeah, exactly. No, and they're all connected, man.
Right.
But it's free will, that's the responsibility we need to take. And all of these cushy material things we've done have driven away that responsibility. It's driven away that evolutionary drive. It's driven away the beauty of having that free will to build up the conscious power and make those decisions, even in states of discomfort. But we've always learned the most in those very polarizing states.
Yes, and I want to get into the dark path, if we want to call it. I'm joking, but I want to get into religion and free will because I feel that many people are making those same whims as we got into the Tartle episode, Tartle.co, as we got into that, I'm just plugging away here.
I don't mind.
No,
You're
as we
a
got in
switchboard for 50s.
as we got into that in our Tartle episode, in the sense of being influenced by marketing and then them making decisions for us, these set of rules and regulations that we get in religion, especially when you look at Christianity or Judaism, you know, and I'm not talking about the mystic parts of that. I'm talking about this man-made religion that wants to just every day and every moment want fear, guilt, and worry to permeate you. And then now you have to make decisions, not based off of what's inside of you, off these laws of creation, but you're making decisions based off these fake man-made religions.
Yeah, out of dogmas that say you have to live a certain way.
I'm worried I'm going to go to hell.
So that means I can't make decisions that I think are best for myself. I have to make decisions that are best for this God.
I have to resist this temptation.
I have to resist the temptation.
I'm going to sin.
I can't be a human. And where's your learning? You're stopped from learning. You're forced.
Yes.
The interesting part about religion and free will is that it forces you to live in the past.
Yes.
It forces you to always look backwards. There's no growth going forward.
No.
You're always, held back by this God,
yes.
this dogma that says, no, you can't do this. There's no way forward.
This abusive father.
It's an abusive father. It's this figure that they forcibly make you think sits above you, designs all these things. Well, let me tell you something. Okay.
Let me tell you something.
And I'm fixing to tell you.
No, I'm thinking of Living Color with Jim Carrey.
Great show.
Jim Carrey, and he was Fire Marshal Bill.
That's correct. Yeah.
Let me tell you something.
Let me tell you something. Yeah. Or how about him on the Juice Weasel? Have you seen that?
Yes.
Do you know how much biomass you got to eat in a day? 21 pounds of it. How old are you, son? So, but the thing is, they've created this idea. They've crafted this idea that robs people. Right. So like once you're set inside of it, you forget what free will is. You forget what your own decision making is.
It's imposing 100% on your free will.
You then get this completely binary world from this God that is, albeit a creature of creation. Okay.
Right.
The word God comes from the term isvich, which is a Proto-Germanic word. Okay. Yes. Which was a poor translation of the Hebrew word of Yahweh.
Yeah, I know.
So
I know Hebrew.
I bet you do. I bet you dirty little seraphim.
There's actually in Judaism, there's a lot of words for God. There's one that you can't even pronounce.
Well, there's a whole bunch. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I can't even talk right today.
So this religious behavior, because that's what you're doing, you're behaving, is now perfectly predictable. And it's socially acceptable.
Well, because
nastiness.
You're controlled.
Yes.
It's so predictable. That means you don't fall out of these lines. And you know what you do? You're scolded, ostracized, exorcised. You are excommunicated. They create this. Anytime you do something wrong, it's not a function of learning. It only breeds separation.
But I want to ask this question. Can a perfectly predictable person be free?
No. Because if you're perfectly predictable, that means you're never...
I'll see if we mess that up.
Yeah, that's hard. If you're perfectly predictable, you no longer are making a choice for yourself.
Yes. And Nietzsche said this. He said Christian morality is a slave morality.
Of course it's a slave morality. It always has been. It's so obvious. Jason, think about this. Here's a book with a bunch of rules. Are you shitting me?
Thousands of rules.
Are you shitting me? Think about that.
Yes.
Here's a book with the rules. What's for me to decide? Who said the book's even legit? Who wrote it? Do you know the guy?
I also, Nietzsche talked about this. He said that your desire for freedom is so great that with those rules, with that religion, you're going to be self-destructive.
It naturally is.
Yes.
And that's why religion always has to constantly redefine itself. That's why the Pope always has to change his image. Because over time, people's free will and perspective changes.
Yes.
Their laws that you find in these religions are impermanent. They're non-creational laws. They're separative laws. They're man-made junk.
Yes.
And that's why they always have to retune themselves. They're constantly one big marketing firm that's trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've noticed with religion, especially, and we're using the word religion, is that it's a control mechanism to take a society and say, here's these generic rules. You're not an individual anymore. You're part of this collective. And then inside of that collective, you have to be, and we see that we saw that with socialism and Stalin,
Sure.
and how horrific that went.
Stalin, think about the fascist.
Yes,
Here's the collective.
yes,
Are you going to join fascism? If you don't, you know what's going to happen? You're going to die.
yeah. We're going to take you off in these carts,
Right.
and
But then
you're
they
gone.
create rules, propaganda, media.
Yes.
They create this whole system around this thing to actually put it up on some pedestal to make it seem like it is a reality.
Right.
When in truth, it sits outside of reality. It's something very unreal.
Yeah, and I think there was one philosopher I was reading, and he was really interesting. He says, you modern philosopher, he says, you go to a restaurant with you and your wife, and you sit there and you say, honey, what will I have? And then you just never make the decision for yourself to eat what you want.
Yeah.
You're always just relying on her to make that decision for you. And that's oversimplified, but I really like those type of examples.
Jason, it's not oversimplified, because that is something that can be expanded into absolutely every other aspect of this.
Mm-hmm.
There's no free will in that.
Mm-mm.
Here, make the decision for me.
Right.
Why don't you make the decision what my afterlife's going to be like?
How many of us are letting others
make decisions for us?
So
many. Because we do not recognize that free will and the responsibility to
yes,
ourselves.
there's that word again.
We become attached and
Yes.
think we're responsible to others.
Yes.
Be responsible to yourself.
Yes.
And when you are responsible to yourself, you're naturally responsible to others. Okay? Because
No.
this is what it is. If you can become loving of yourself,
It's gonna permeate that love.
You're gonna have to be loving to everyone else.
It's like in that situation that we had with you and I, where we learned, mainly me, because
I learned a lot. Don't
yeah,
you?
I know you learned a lot. But I'm saying 3 years ago would have been a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
So I can see, since I've met you, and then the walk that I've gone through in my life brought me to that exact moment at that point. For me, I don't want to use the word test. I don't like to use the word test because
Jason, you drove yourself to that
cause.
point.
Yes.
You through your free
Yes.
will brought you there. Remember
Yes.
we talked about miracles in the beginning? There are no miracles. This was not some serendipitous, miraculous event of cosmic influence.
Right.
Since the day you were making conscious decisions
Yes.
in your younger years, drove yourself to that very moment. And all this learning you've taken have brought you here. And it's like, okay, are you going to use that learning properly?
Yeah, and and this is where, in the Bible they have a verse where it says all things work together for good.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at all the dark moments that I've had in my life and what perceived as dark, but they were actually good.
They're all, yeah.
Because it brought me to that. It's brought me to that level of understanding to where I can look at another human and say their level of consciousness, I don't know that. And that is not my decision to say Alex's level of conscious higher or lower than mine.
Correct.
I cannot say that decision. But I do know this. I know regardless of where their level of consciousness is, whenever I'm imposing my free will on them and I'm being offensive,
Mm-hmm.
even in because you have to look at this too when we look at free will. When we look at their perceptions being their reality, you may have somebody, you go to India and you eat a hamburger, you're going to offend a lot of people.
I just thought about that. I'm like, dude, that's twisted.
Yeah. Or you can go to, there's this show on Netflix right now where there's like these people from, they're getting these brides where they're getting from different countries and stuff like
Sure,
that. What do
okay.
they call that? Whether they get them from Russia, like you pay brides or
Mail order bride?
Yeah, mail order bride type thing. And it's a reality show. And there's a lady here in the United States, and she's Southern, and she's likes this Nigerian guy a lot.
Yeah.
Well, Nigerian culture, very strong masculine culture.
Mm.
She's a strong Southern woman.
Oh, interesting.
So and of course all the producers pair all this up to get the most sparks and drama and all that.
They know what they're doing.
But she goes to Nigeria and visits him, and his brothers and everybody else around him cannot believe how disrespectful she is to him as a man. You know what I mean? So if I go to there was a great missionary that went to China, a Christian missionary. His name was Hudson Taylor, and he did a lot of great work. He was outside of the realm of Christianity. He would be more of what you would. And he actually helped and brought economies together and stuff like that.
Interesting.
But he went to China in the early 1800s, so you can imagine that. But he brought on, he grew his hair long, put braids on, wore the same outfit that they wore, and brought himself into their culture. Where most missionaries were coming into cultures and saying, this is the English way.
High white neck,
Yes,
shortcut,
pulpit,
hold the thing.
let's build a church building.
No.
Let's have a big...
He did as the Romans do. He, from a non-offensive thing,
yes.
he integrated with the culture and then helped elevate it.
So why would you not... And that's what I was thinking. There's nothing offensive in... As long as it's not imposing on your free will, there's nothing offensive in doing as the Romans do.
No,
You see what I'm not... So this lady, if she would have said, okay, I'm going to Nigeria, and for, patriarchs and traditions, this person, I'm interested in this person, I love them, So I'm coming here and I know the family structure is this way. I don't need to seek arguments, and I don't need to give a political discourse on egalitarianism.
No.
You see what I'm saying? Now, if he begins to impose on her free will, then you can't have a relationship.
There's no relationship. But if you think about it from that point, is that if somebody doesn't know any better, just out of ignorance, and not in a bad aspect, they just don't know.
Because we all don't know.
Because we all don't know.
Yeah.
To then come in and impose on their free will.
Yes.
You're just lying to them. You're doing a disservice. So it wouldn't behoove you to even take that sort of path.
And so that's why asking the question why is so important, because now I look at it and I say, why do I feel the need to be egalitarian right now? Why do I feel the need to defend myself with these groups of people that have been doing this for hundreds and thousands of years? Is it because there's something inside of me that I've always craved because my parents never gave me enough appreciation?
Sure.
My parents never gave me enough, said that I did great. And through my whole life, I've always tried to seek, this attention and this respect. And now I'm not feeling that from this group of people. And so now I want to lash out. So you see, that's why is so important. You know what I mean?
Why is really important.
Is it coming? Am I coming to, like you said, am I coming to educate them?
Correct.
In this moment? Or am I coming with bringing discontent and discord?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And separation.
Yes.
And saying your culture is wrong.
You're right.
Nobody's wrong. You can't judge anybody.
No.
And that's, and these are the fine lines we toe with free will.
Yes.
And we see these same things. Even we talked about it on the Turtle episode, turtle.co, sell your data. Even when we talked about these things right on the Turtle episode, is that, we're coerced.
Yes.
With, marketing and our abuse of our information. We're driven to things. They don't appreciate us with our own free will to make an educated choice on our own behalf. Yeah.
And that's something that we talked about, but education and then allowing your free will to make the decision. And that's the breakdown, I think, is looking at leadership as education and then coaching them to make the decision to operate in their own free will.
That's precisely correct.
That's true leadership.
Listen, you and I could never run this podcast. We could never be leaders at Turtle if we were not educating.
Right.
We always have to make sure that individuals have that free will. We remind them of that free will.
Yes.
We remind them of that choice. And we can only do it through education. We can only do it through learning. That's the only way it happens.
That's the only way
it happens. And free will allows you to learn.
Right.
And our free will is recognizing that choice within ourselves and then again offering that up to others.
Because especially when you look in the context of leadership. So now we see, because I want to make sure I say this right. Okay, so we look at leadership, and everybody always looks at like a pyramid or a pinnacle. They're looking at someone, the leader, the CEO being on top or whatever.
The Zeiss.
Yeah, and so then from there, decisions are ran and streamed down, through all these different, departments, and then we look at it. Do you think the CEO would be pleased with this? Do you think this lines up with, what he views or she views? When in actuality, you should see a decentralized, empowered group of teams that are having the ability to exercise their free will for the greater good of humanity.
Does this align with humanity?
Yes.
The CEO, if he's already pressing something down saying, we need to see if it aligns with humanity, there's never even going to be a check in your mind to say, is this okay with the CEO?
Right.
No. If it aligns with humanity, if it's egalitarian, if it's loving,
right,
if it's peaceful, harmonizing, unifying, if it does those things, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, because
You don't have to question it at that point.
Because you get almost like with this woke culture and everything that's going on right now, you get where it's become a religion to the point, they're creating more rules and cancel culture and all this stuff that's going on, as it is in the far right. When you look at, you have to be this type of person, this set of group, and it creates such a divide and so much polarization that we get into the point to where, when you really look at the heart of both sides, all you're seeing is people that are being abusive to each other
and themselves
mostly, because when you have that much, it's like, I was talking to someone the other day. I was like, why do you have so much hatred in your heart towards the president? Why is this guy influencing your life so much? He really doesn't have my life hasn't changed from Bush to Clinton to Obama to
no influence over
to
your
Trump.
emotions.
Yes.
Does he have an influence over your free will?
But in reality, how much has he changed our lives? Our day-to-day lives.
Zero.
So why are we putting so much?
He doesn't change it.
But what people don't realize, when they take that emotion and embody that, and they're on Twitter and responding and getting so angry,
dude, they're dumping their free will.
They are. That's where I was going.
They're passing off responsibility.
Yes. They're giving it to him.
You're the one that did it to me. You did it. And then again, it's polarizing.
Yes.
The second you give away free will, responsibility, you've instantly polarized.
Yes.
Don't do that. You're out of balance. It's not a healthy way to live.
And I think the wisest thing that you can do in situations like that, especially when they're extremely, this is because I had somebody say on my podcast, why am I getting not political? I said, it's too polarizing. I'm not going to play in that duality.
No, it's
because either way, you're going to try to filter me either way. And I'm not going to allow that, because I'm free to move about. My free will, I'm free to move about towards my development, evolution, and growth.
correct.
And it does not, I don't need a filter of religion, a filter of Republican or Democrat, a filter of being a United States citizen.
No.
None of those things matter to what I am in my higher conscious, because 500 years from now, there's not going to be no more United States of America.
No,
and I'm going to be in
not.
a different meat suit,
Yeah.
evolving differently.
Yeah. And then hopefully in the year 3000, there's no more, Vatican.
Yeah.
I'd be psyched.
Yes. No more Satan
I would be
churches.
freaking psyched.
That Viper thing.
But listen, that is the responsibility. That is what it means to be aligned with the law of free will, is that recognition of choice.
Yes.
Is that recognition of nobody makes this foot move forward but you.
No one does.
Nobody.
There's no influence on that.
Nobody has an influence over your conscious thoughts. You're the one having the thought. You're the one allowing influence.
Yes, allowing.
Okay? Disallow that. Listen to it, but disallow it. There's no influence over you. And if you can disallow, that means you can positively, neutrally equalize that polarization.
And you don't need to have, your voice is not that important.
No.
You know what I mean? The voice that's in you, and that how you're responding and asking the questions and being rational and understanding love and humility and peace and being a peacemaker. That's what's important.
That's the most
those
important
actions of you moving forward in that consciousness level.
Not screaming and pointing fingers and making noise.
But a lot of times here lately, I've been realizing I just need to keep quiet right now. I don't have to say anything.
Sometimes it's better to just, honestly, listen.
Yes.
Think. Listen and think.
Yes.
And then listen some more. And then keep doing it. And only when you've really, really thought it through, take your free will and make that decision and go say something. Or stand for a purpose that you've truly thought through.
Or maybe after a while, it doesn't require a response. And the best thing that you can do is just work on you.
Yeah, wait a minute. That's really not that important.
Maybe, maybe me eating these fast food cheeseburgers and not working out, maybe I need to work on that and not worry about what Susan's saying.
And honestly,
or Bill or Jim.
Don't blame McDonald's from putting their thing so close to your house.
Yes.
You drove over there.
Yes.
You gave them your debit, credit card, whatever it is.
You made that with your free will. You made that.
You
decision.
did it. Do not blame them.
So I have a lot of things to work on that I don't need to worry about who's debating who or what's going on.
No.
None of that matters.
We have so much internal development as human beings, right? With a very powerful, large spirit.
Yes.
Let's give it its right to evolution through our free will.
Mm.
If the universe, creation, is bestowing us to have this, use it properly. Don't continue to stagnate yourself on that path. Really.
Make your own path.
Make your own path. Free will.
Yes.
And realize that all is one.
All is one.
And it can be a unifying thing with your own free will, your own personal choice.
And you make the choice right now, Alex, to stop the record button and cut the outro on.
And I'm going to do that right now.